Hey Pat, this is kind of new for us. Never done this before, so if I mess up and say a cuss word or something, I'm sorry. This is the beam by the chimney upstairs that was bellied down, dropped about 3 inches. We've straightened that out. I'll show you how we did that when we go upstairs. What we also found was that this wall going to the small bedroom, the ceiling was bellied down quite a bit as well. I suspect it was simply that the timbers were put in green and they shrunk quite a bit. As a matter of fact, during a previous renovation, they had shimmed in between the floor joists and the floor upstairs to straighten the floor out. I'm convinced that this place has gone through this previously, and I'm talking a complete gut out and a complete renovation at some point. Very, very early. In this room over here, we did move this wall this way as requested to give you the master bedroom closet. Unfortunately, most of the dead space in here on this floor was over on this side of the closet, so you have a very small closet in here. I'm going to have to make a custom door for it. But there is indeed a closet, and we will get some shelf and a rod in there for you. I think that's it for this room. As you can see, we've started the electrical, or Paul has. What we've done is we've put a sub panel in the closet under the stairs. The purpose of that is twofold. One, if you blow any breakers in this side of the house, you don't have to go down to the basement. You can just simply go in the closet here. Additionally, if we were to run wires for every circuit that we needed on this side of the house, it would have been an immense amount of wire. So we brought one heavy cable over here, put the sub panel in, we'll run all our circuits from here to this side of the house. We also plan on removing all of the old wire, this cloth covered wire. There'll be none of it, it'll be all modern water in the house when we're done. All right. Okay. For lighting in this front hall, we're thinking, come on up here a little bit, we're thinking wall sconce, and wall sconce here. There's not a lot of ceiling because of the opening for the staircase. And moving into this room, this is kind of interesting, which again tells me that there was a previous renovation. You've got your original construction here, and then you've got these hand-hewed logs, basically, that were used to support the areas in between the floor. I suspect it takes some bounce out of there. Additionally, if you can see up here, they've got the same thing going on. You've got spaces up here that are up to 3/4 of an inch thick. There was a big belly in here still, so it's dropped since then. We had to lower this ceiling in order to straighten it out. The closet in the master bedroom main floor has an area over here and the reason that is we moved this doorway over in order to get that fireplace back in, the fireplace surround reinstalled. As a result, we're going to put a light in this closet. The light switch will be in here. We'll have to get him to switch that around. What else? That's it for here. Large bedroom upstairs. Everything went relatively smooth here. We had these 2x10 collar ties being put in when we were doing the work previously 6-7 years ago, just to straighten up the roof before we shingled it. As a result, these rafters being as large as they were, all we had to do was scrap a 2x4 on the side of these to get our 5 inches. We didn't have to do anything too extreme. However, up here, the dead space beside the chimney was on this side, which means I had to make the chimney, or this closet over here, smaller. That explains why the door has the angle on it. I'm going to have to swing this out. There's nothing I can do about that, but you will have a closet with full access to it. We are planning on leaving this chimney visible. It's not very pretty, but we thought if we were to knock some of this mortar off and acid wash this, it won't look too bad. The fact that the bed space was on this side kind of worked out for us here in the hallway, because in this bedroom we had to move this wall here out in order to give us enough room for plumbing for the laundry. This is your laundry closet. These are the only doors that are going to be modern doors in the house, simply because building code requires a louvered door on a laundry closet. That meant that we had to move this door over this way. That's a good thing that the dead space was on this side, because we were able to do that. We're also not planning to do anything else around this chimney here. Like I say, we'll acid wash it and clean it up. We're simply going to run our drywall and a layer of concrete board, as per fire code, into it here and into it here. So two sides of this will remain visible. There's plenty of space here for a bed, lots of space for a bed. The room, it did shrink down the room a little bit and make it feel tight in here, but the new height of the ceilings really helps. There's definitely enough room to use this as a bedroom. All right, this was our solution. What happened here was when they cut this out, and there used to be vertical boarding between this beam and the beam below, that carried the weight of the floor joists, they carried the roof weight, and when they cut through this, of course, it gave it half the strength. The fact that that other wall downstairs was shrinking, basically, put an additional load on this beam, because it carried the weight of the floor joists clear to the other side of the house right here. So what we did was we put in a couple of rafters, a rather substantial collar tie. That's got to be 6 inches. And we ran threaded rod clean down through both, downstairs, through that beam, and we jacked it up and bolted everything into place. So that's a permanent fix. Okay, stop you there. Bedroom in the L, pretty straightforward. One of the things that was different about this part of the house, as opposed to the main house, is that these rafters are just basically 2x4s, 2x5s. They did not have the strength to keep the roof straight, as we found when we put these collar ties in 7 years ago and straightened this roof out before we roofed it. As a result, we are sistering new rafters in beside them. This is a twofold thing. One, we wanted to pick up the strength and keep the roof straight, while giving us the opportunity to move these collar ties up to 8 feet, because right now they're at 7 feet, and I'd really like to get the 8 feet out of it. I also placed these rafters at proper width if we want to have dormers in there. If we're going to be able to put dormers in, I put them at that width. But I'm going to get Drew to come over here and point right up there. You check this gap out here, and as he goes up, you have quite a space. The reason that is because this part of the house is built out of square, about 3 inches out of square. You can't build a dormer out of square, it'd be terribly visible. So what we had to do when we put this wall in, we made this room 3 inches out of square and squared up our new joists or rafters that we were putting in. This did unfortunately limit the width that we could go on the dormers. It made them smaller than I had actually planned on doing them. However, it turns out this was probably a good thing. Now for the big surprise. Ta-da! These engravings here, the rafter was so tight to the engravings that if we tried to do anything with that old dormer on here, we were going to cover up some of these engravings. So what I've done is I pulled the rafter out and I moved them over and I put in a new rafter. However, when I yanked the old rafter out, we found some rot. And what it was the window here was leaking. And it had rotted out clean through all the big, there was a 4-inch 4x4 holding that window up. It rotted clean through, and underneath this 2x6 sill here, there was it's rotted even into this beam, not very much. So it's a good thing we actually found it, because it would have just kept leaking and eventually you'd have lost this rafter beam. This is your new view from your new dormer. Repairing the original small doghouse dormer would have required us to basically disassemble it, because it was only consisted of 2 corner posts and some board and board. So we would have literally had to have taken the thing apart to fix it and to repair it. At that point, it just made sense just to go ahead and widen it up and put a decent sized window in here. This is a temporary collar tie. We're going to carry the 8-foot length clean in through here, so your ceilings, your wall will go up, chamfer, and then level off, kind of give it a nice look rather than having a box dormer. My window width, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do here. I have to figure out the trim on the outside. What I want to do is kind of match the trim of to the house as we did with the porches. Okay, that's just about it. This is the old window frame out of the small dormer. As you can see, the flange on the outside had deteriorated and broke across the top. Caused some leaking here. There's some rot on the bottom. And on the actual window, that's all rotted out of there. There's nothing left of that. It's very spongy. Here's a view you don't often get, Pat. We were a little under pressure when we were building this. We had 2.5 days to tear that old dormer off, get this one built, and get it watertight because of the weather. And in fact, as it sits right now, it is completely watertight. We've left these long here because I plan on extending that roof line a little bit to get a crown mold on there, make it look like the rest of the house. This is the main house roof. You can see you got some shingles missing here. There's shingles missing on the other side. Before we do any insulating or drywalling, we're going to fix those, get them glued down so they don't come off. We must have some massive winds coming up that hill. As a matter of fact, there's some pretty good ones coming up there right now. Pat, you may have noticed the luan behind these walls. The reason that is, in order to plumb these walls, we had to move them out so they're actually greater than 5.5 inches thick. We put that luan in there because when you insulate, you have to insulate it up against something. Otherwise, the insulation will eventually just fall right off the paper. Basically, what I'm planning on doing with that dormer, Pat, is that. A miniature version of it, like we did with the porches, to make the trim look all the same. And how that works out will determine the width of the window that can go in there and the height. There's a picture in the barn. It's all the trims that we saved, doors, mantle. There we go. I remember 7 years ago, Stafford wanted me to save those doors, and it's a darn good thing we did because we're going to need a couple of them. They used to be, 7 years ago, you could buy a door like that for $80. Now they're between $180 and $220. Quick look at the yard. As you see, we're using those two windows to load material into the house and throw garbage out. A must on every job site. Well, that's pretty much it, Pat. We're going to be, as soon as we get this electrical out of the way, we're going to start insulating and boarding, and we'll move on from there. Oh, yes, evidence of a fire, which would explain the new chimney. I don't know if it explains the previous renovations or not.